Sweet. All right. We're live on 2 platforms. Yeah. I'm experimenting with YouTube. Actually, OBS is weird. Okay, live scene. Sweet. YouTube and TikTok. Cool. All right. Welcome to the Table Moments Debrief. For those of you who don't know, Table Moments is a podcast, a homies podcast that I do with my brother. We talk about anything and everything, no politics. I'm the host and captain, Ayman. This week, we're going to be talking about a specific thing that we discussed on the podcast, specifically jobs. This stream is all about jobs. So main topics, nobody loves their job. Okay. You might start off loving your job, but you don't actually love your job. LinkedIn is fake, how fake everything is on there. I don't understand it. I don't even like it as a social platform. So we'll talk about that. How to get a better job. So a lot of you do not like your jobs right now. We'll fix that. Show you how to get a better job. And there are some shady things you might have to do in order to make that happen. But whatever's better for you will work out for you. Job requirements aren't real. So you guys read these things too literally. Okay. Job requirements are just suggestions. And then when you understand the frame about how and why they were written the way they're written, then you'll start to understand how to play the game properly so you can actually get the job that you're looking for. Maybe even a job that you think you're not qualified for. So we'll talk about that. And then lastly, most importantly, thinking about should you accept a job. Just because you can get the interview, pass the interview, and they select you doesn't mean you should take it. And so that's where we're going to talk about you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. This is one of the main topics that we talked about on this week's episode of Table Moments. You can find the podcast on any podcasting platform. Just search Table Moments. Our feed should come up first. If you try YouTube, you're going to see a bunch of WWE videos, and part of this streaming process is like creating videos so we can like rank higher than those eventually. So some of the topics we talked about on the podcast, we talked about social media, specifically LinkedIn and how fake things are on there. Loving your job. We also talk about PhDs and some of the shady things with that, obligations, fake science, credentials, salary question that came up that my brother came up with, and then travel, and then also street shitting. So people who shit in the street. That's one of the psychological things we brought up So if any of those topics you found interesting, go listen to the podcast, especially if you like audio. Hey Duncan, what's up? All right, so if any of those topics seem interesting to you, check out the podcast. You can find it anywhere. Just search Table Moments as seen on the account. But let's talk about the first topic. Nobody actually likes their job. When you first get a job, especially if you're like fresh out of college, I remember I don't know, I think I was very selective out of college, like the kind of jobs I wanted, and then realized like employers don't really give a crap about college degrees and new graduates. You're just like fodder to them. So they're just looking for a body to put in a seat. They realize you're not going to be able to contribute much when you're fresh out of college. So I wouldn't be too selective fresh out of college. I made that mistake. But, when you're fresh out of college, you have all these big dreams and aspirations about all the things you can do, all the fields you want to work in, especially if it's like a technical field that you studied. You're like, oh, man, I'm going to work on robots, or I'm going to work in aerospace, blah, blah, blah. You might not get so lucky. Most people don't. So you enter the job market and you realize, okay, cool. It's all fresh and new and novel. So you're super excited, especially as a fresh college graduate, or maybe not even, maybe just fresh out of high school. And it seems super fun. And then once you become competent and you start working the job for a bit, then you start realizing, okay, this is really boring. Jobs can be really boring. And then you start learning about meetings, right? Like meetings are terrible. Meetings, when I got my job as an engineer, first job as an engineer, I had a reputation for falling asleep in meetings all the time because, boring meetings are just boring. People just like talking for no reason. And so jobs come with all these additional things like bullshit emails, bullshit meetings. And then you realize like, the job is really just expecting you to do what was done last time, but a little bit better. And so you end up like not actually enjoying your job. And then you start getting used to your job too. And so the salary isn't as satisfying. When you're fresh out of college and you don't have any money, any amount of money is a lot of money. And so you're like, all right, cool. This job is dope. But after a while, you get used to a certain lifestyle. You start getting the nice car, or maybe you get the car note, you get the apartment, and you're like, oh, all right, this salary isn't extending as far as I thought. And then that's when you start thinking about a better job, maybe one that's even more fulfilling, one that pays more. And so no one really loves their job. Nobody really loves their job if you really, really think about it, because there's always going to be aspects of people's jobs they don't like, which is why LinkedIn seems so fake to me. You see those posts on Instagram, on LinkedIn about, hey, just join this organization. Hey, I'm super excited, to be joining this company. And they always seem like hostage statements to me, Every time I see those things on LinkedIn, I'm like, you're not excited about this job, okay? You're just excited. Maybe you're excited about the paycheck. Nothing wrong with that, actually. Nothing wrong with being excited about a paycheck, but the hostage statements are just so disingenuous, and they feel like a robot wrote them. Or maybe like the HR department sends them to all the new employees, asking them to like post it so they can get some clout for the company. So they're basically just using you as a way to get more clout on LinkedIn. And the whole idea behind like, hey, here's my employer, here, I'm proud to be here. It's like in a few years, you're not going to feel that way. And so the whole thing never made sense to me. And then I'm like, why do we do this? Why do we do this? Who thought this would be a good idea, to be so fake publicly when it comes to your job? Everyone understands this isn't real, but we do it anyways. And maybe we just do it out of like a sense of obligation. I can understand that. Like people get so used to how things are, or maybe you feel like, oh crap, I just joined this job and I saw all these other new employees post this post about how excited they are about their job. And so you're like, all right, fuck, I got to do it too. Which, all right. But I don't think anyone would miss your post if it didn't show up. So I'm just like, who's this for? Who is this for? The employer? Maybe if you say that stuff, it can encourage other people to come on board. But even then, if you're a new employee, you don't know what it's like to actually work there yet. You just started. So making a statement like that it's not credible at all. Is it for you? I don't know. Maybe is this a way to like convince yourself that you made the right decision? I doubt it. I mean, I think people just do it out of like, maybe because people see it as, I feel like it's HR. I've never been asked to actually do that, to actually post like on LinkedIn for my employer. I have seen people get super like share articles from or corporate releases or something for their job, for their company. And I don't understand it. It's like, you're not the advertising arm of the company. And in fact, some companies are actually very careful about like, you're not supposed to talk about the stuff we do. Okay. Just because they don't want to be liable for anything associated with you being associated with their company. And so you got to be careful with that. But LinkedIn just does not make sense as a social platform to me. I can also understand maybe networking, but I think people completely misunderstand what networking is. It just seems to me like when people network, they're just looking about what's good for them. It's all very selfish and self-centered. Like, how can I connect with this person so they could help me? How can I connect with this person on LinkedIn and see if there's any opportunities or anything like that? This is a very common like attitude. I don't know if you guys are from Southern California. It's very common, especially in Hollywood and, with the acting and all that stuff in that area. People are like that. And it's crazy how overt they are about it. Like, if you're not big enough, people don't want to associate with you. Or if you're bigger than them, it's cool. They want to associate with you. But if you're smaller than them, then they're not really interested. And it seems like networking, that kind of attitude has infected a lot of people, especially with like the advent of LinkedIn and social platforms like that. It's like connecting with all these people that you barely even know for potentially a benefit for me. Instead, I think the best way to network is to think, how can you help somebody? What can you do for them? Like, are you a good fit for each other? Like, why aren't people thinking about jobs that way? Like, are we a good fit where we can mutually benefit from this thing? And if not, be prepared to walk away from a job. Like, I don't know. And I think in order to be in a position to walk away from a job, you have to be in a financial situation where you're not desperate for the job. And that brings me to the next thing. Like, employers don't like desperation. I feel like I have this theory: employers are a lot like girls, and guys, like girls don't like guys who are desperate. Okay. It's obvious. They can smell it and it turns them off. And so if you treat employers like you treat girls, okay, you should not want it that bad. If you do, they'll smell it and they'll not want it. They'll not want you. Okay. So you should be as selective as they are selecting employees and stuff. So consider that. Okay. Be selective. Especially because you're making a decision about how to spend a year to 5 years of your life, 8 hours a day minimum. Like, really think deeply if the people that are interviewing you, who are going to be part of your organization or team, make sense for the kind of work that you want to do and your personality. Like, I've made this mistake before. I've joined a team I'm naturally introverted. Might not seem like it since I'm doing these live streams, but it's pretty easy for me to just talk without actually having to interact with people. But joining a team full of extroverts probably wasn't a good idea. The only reason I did it was because it was like a skill building thing. I realized like it was one of my weaknesses. And there's this really good book, How to Win It, by Scott Adams, called How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. And he talks about this idea of a skill stack where you put these unique skills together that in combination are unique to you and that will set you apart from everybody else. And so you don't have to be the best at any particular thing. You just need to be the best at your combination of things. And I realized as an engineer, as a lot of engineers are, they're very introverted people. They like just keeping to themselves, sitting behind their desk, solving problems and all that. But if you want to set yourself apart as someone who's naturally introverted, you need to learn that extroversion skills. You need to learn how to be social. And I figured the best way to learn is by doing, as it always is. And so I accepted and actually made a career change out of engineering into like more business ops, and in a role where I would have to talk to more people and with people on a regular basis as a daily part of my job. And so I built that stack. I would not be here streaming to strangers on the internet. You're not strangers, you're family. To family on the internet if I did not put myself in a position to learn those social skills. And so I made a strategic decision to switch fields so I can learn a skill. And maybe that's something you should consider for yourself too. Instead of just looking at salary, which I know it's very tempting to do, especially if you're young and you don't got a lot of money in your bank account. It's just so easy to just like, I want to get that job that pays an extra $2,000, an extra $5,000. In the grand scheme of things, that extra money isn't going to matter because a lot of it's going to get taxed anyways. But two, it's like you're using money as a metric for how important the job will be in your life. If you think about the skills that you're going to be building in a job, then you can choose more selectively about what puts you in a better position for the things you want to do in life, or maybe even pursue longer term. And so instead of making that short-term decision about the money, make that long-term decisions about skills that you could build in that job. And if it means even switching fields to take a pay cut, maybe that's better in the short term. Which is a hard thing to do for a lot of people, because that idea of taking a step back is just so hard to swallow for people. But it pays so much more in the long term that it's worth making. I used to work as a mechanical design engineer. I literally just sat at a computer designing parts. Good job, good money. But I realized this was not developing my skills professionally, or even for the things I want to do, which is eventually what I'm doing now, like starting my own business or whatever, and learning content creation and stuff. So I decided, you know what, I need to build these social skills. And it would be even preferred if I could get paid to learn these skills. And that's the cool thing about a job, choosing your jobs wisely, because you can get paid to learn new skills. And so it's like, that's the opportunity I saw. And so I took it. And now I do this kind of stuff. And so this is a decision you should make too. When you're looking at jobs and what you're qualified for and what you're not qualified for, and if you're looking at salaries and stuff, forget the salary. As long as it's going to be able to pay for your monthly expenses, Cool. Especially if you're young. If you're older, you got obligations, you got a family. That's a harder thing to do. I get it. I don't have that, so I don't know what it's like to be in that position. But if you're a single person and especially if you're young, think longer term about the skills you can develop, and then make your decisions about the jobs you accept from there. And so when you're looking at jobs, you might be even thinking like, all right, here's a bunch of jobs that sound really cool. Also titles, be careful with titles too, because people throw around titles on these job postings, but they're trying to sell the job with the title instead of actually what you'll actually learn. I remember I actually got a job offer fresh out of college for a engineering job, but really if you looked at the role and the position and what I would have to do, it was really the job of a technician, which is nothing wrong with that. It's just fresh out of college, I was looking for that actual design experience of an engineer. And in order for me to do that, I actually have to be in that role. And so I decided to negotiate more responsibility. In fact, I actually asked them like, I understand that this job doesn't have a lot of responsibility. In the next quarter or two, if it's possible, if before I accept this position, could you add those things if that's a possibility? They decided they weren't really messing with that. So I'm pretty sure rescinded the offer, but I ended up getting another job elsewhere, actually across the country. And I wasn't even seriously considering it, which is why I gave off the aloofness of like not really seriously considering the job, which is why it was so easy to get. And so they treated me well. I learned a lot. And then I ended up making a career transition into business operations, which got me another job into a pharmaceutical company, which I could not have done if I didn't make that switch. That's another thing you have to consider, like the lock-in of accepting a job. Sometimes jobs are so specialized that you're stuck. You're stuck. And if you're stuck, then the number of options you have available to you is basically very, very few. So I used to work in the nuclear industry. Not industry. It was a nuclear role-ish, and I can't really discuss. You understand. And so, if I had stayed in that role, I could only work in the nuclear industry, which jobs are not plentiful right now. Maybe in the future they will be, but right now they're not. And so it's like, be careful about the roles that you accept. They might be too limiting. And if they're too limiting and highly specialized, then you're locking yourself into that role. And obviously, as you progress in your career, people are looking for specific skills in that space. So if that happens, then you might be accidentally screwing yourself. So I realized I was falling into that trap. And so I decided to make the career change when I had the opportunity. I literally just saw a job posting, and it was an internal job posting for like this continuous improvement. They call it. It's basically like solving business problems for the place I was working. And they were looking for someone with an engineering background and who had some experience with like business operations. So Lean and Six Sigma, if you're familiar with it, it's basically reducing waste and reducing variation and solving business problems. And all I did to prepare for the interview was read a book, one book, The Toyota Way, which is basically like the Bible for continuous improvement. And then through the interview, I just quoted the things in the book, and that's how I got the job. And that's the next thing that I want to talk about is like jobs. You can embellish a little on your resumes. Okay. You can embellish when you see the job requirements on a post or something for a job posting, know they are being written by people who are not qualified to be writing those things. Okay. Like think HR departments or hiring departments or stuff, especially if you're someone who works in a technical role. They don't know what a technical person does. And so they're just looking for keywords in your resume, keywords that show up in the job posting. And literally all they're doing is just matching. Like, okay, here's a keyword in the job posting. And then here's the keyword in your resume. And that's literally how they make the decision. They don't know what those technical words are because they don't have backgrounds in it. And so really your mission is to get past the HR department. And so you should be tailoring your resume specifically for that job posting specifically. And there's all these strategies you can Google, but you could just use keywords. Like if there's something, is experienced with, let's say, React, JavaScript, or whatever. Make sure you have that in your resume. Maybe you don't have experience with it. You can figure it out. I swear. Like these treat job requirements like suggestions. Okay. They're not real. They're not real. And so if they say we're looking for someone with 4 to 5 years of experience, they will accept someone with 1 to 3 years of experience. And even then, you could put it on your resume that you have 4 to 5 years of experience, even if you don't. And if you don't have enough experience, it'll show up in the technical part of the interviews. So don't even worry about like misleading them or anything. But if they were just asking for too much in the job posting, then that's a job you just got that you technically don't qualify for. So consider doing that. These job postings are just suggestions. They're just suggestions, since you should be tailoring your resume for those jobs. That's one trick you can do. And also, if you're generally an honest person, you might have a hard time with this, which I did too. You should be lying on your resume. Not in like major ways, like, all right, you say you have this experience in this thing that you have zero experience in, but you should embellish your resume. Other people are doing it, by the way. If you're an honest person, realize other people are actually doing this shit too. They are not honest about it. And we have next week's episode, we actually talks about some of the things that we've put on our resumes, and you can get a taste of what that's the kind of the stuff that we put on there. But really, that's the point. So embellish on your resumes. So here's how important it is to use keywords too. I remember, so my background's in mechanical engineering. Somehow I ended up getting an interview with a self-driving car company. Okay. These people were looking for someone with programming experience. They were looking for someone who has experience working on these intelligent cars. They were looking for someone with GPS experience and all computer science stuff. Okay. Nothing in my resume or nothing in my professional history had anything to do with anything like that. But somehow, I sort of I remember being on the call with the HR person who's like screening people for this role, this self-driving car role. And I was just answering her questions, using the keywords and stuff. I was just curious. I wanted to see if there was some way for me to get into this space, because I think robots and automation is pretty cool, even despite me not having any real technical experience in this space. And I got past the HR interview. Eventually I swear to God, they scheduled a technical interview with a couple engineers at the self-driving car company, which then they started asking me all these questions. So basically for the interview, I was just like Googling a bunch of shit. Like, all right, what is all this mapping stuff? What are these things? What are these algorithms and stuff for computer vision? And that's how I was doing. I was like, hey, if I could get into this job, that would be great, because I'd really like to learn this stuff. And honestly, you're going to learn most of a job in that role. Okay. I don't know. Maybe there are some really highly specialized roles, but generally speaking, you're going to learn on the job for pretty much anything. So don't be too worried about embellishing something in your resume that isn't true, because like you'll learn what you need to learn. You'll learn what you'll need to learn on the job. And get this, these employers already have training for you prepared. They have training for you prepared. So don't even worry about it. Okay. Don't even worry about it. And guess what? If they find out, yeah, all right, you embellished on your things and you're not a good fit for this role, they'll just fire you, and who cares? Or they'll let you go, or maybe you'll find another role, or you'll have some experience. Who cares? Like, there is no database for people who've been fired. Okay. Like, there's nothing there. Like, I don't know why there is no permanent record like in school. I don't know. Maybe this is like trauma from school, where people think like, oh man, like, people are going to know I've been fired. No, especially if you don't include it on your resume. If it's a very short stint, let's say you really are not a good fit for the role, and you really do not have the experience for the role, despite your embellishments on your resume, and they let you go. Guess what? Just don't include it on your resume. It's that simple. It's like you could hack this whole thing. And so for the self-driving car company, I literally just I tried to bullshit my way through the interview, but then I started hearing about what their targets were and when they planned on having self-driving, and I knew it was bullshit. They were way too optimistic about what they were doing, and there's no way I could help them with that kind of timeline to help them. So I figured this wasn't a good fit for the job. I wasn't a good fit for the job, so I said, all right, screw it. That didn't work out. So that's something you should consider. Embellish on your resume. All right. Despite what people tell you, despite what HR people tell you, embellish on your resume. Okay. These are the people you got to get through. You actually have to get past HR so that you can perform for the technical interview. And then the technical interview is where you'll actually get to meet the team. You'll get to meet your boss. You'll get to meet the leads on that team. You'll get to meet some of the team members too, if it's like a late stage interview. And when that happens, you should be interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. Okay? You are not desperate for this job. At least that's the mindset you should have. You are not desperate for this thing. They want you as much as you want them. And understand they are investing a lot of money. They're investing a lot of money trying to find the right candidate. So consider the process for a job or an employer. They have to sift through thousands of people who've applied for a job. That's time and effort that some HR or hiring department had to do. Then they have to make the calls to see who's actually interested and who isn't. And so that's a bunch of man hours that were just put into doing that. And then you got to consider, okay, they just spent some time. Now there's a round of interviews. First interview, they probably did it with a handful of candidates. That's more time they've invested in just trying to find the right person. Then maybe a second round of interview, depending on the type of role. And then typically a third round of interview where you get to meet the team, and they've probably narrowed it down to you and a handful of other people. But if it's usually a third interview, it's probably just you at that point. And so understand the position you're in. They just spent tens of hours trying to find you. Okay? And think about how many people were involved in that process. Think about how many people were paid to do all that work. Literally, they've invested tens of thousands of dollars in finding you. If you get to that third stage, that last interview, they are desperate to have you. They are. They won't show it because that would put them in a bad negotiating position, but they are. And so this is where you have freedom to negotiate. And so now this is when you start interviewing them too. It's like, all right, are you going to be a good boss? Get the feel of the boss or the manager, get the feel of the teammates. How are they? Like, you should be very selective about the people you're going to decide to work for or work with for the next few years. People aren't. And it blows my mind. Why aren't you more selective about the people you work with? You should be prepared to walk away from any job. Any job. Like, what's that quote from Heat? If you spot the heat around the corner, be able to like leave. Yeah, honestly, maybe you don't have to be this extreme where you actually have like a box, an empty box prepared right next to your desk, ready to leave. But you should have that mindset. Like, you are not desperate to be at any job, and you do this by making sure you're financially secure. Okay, so get your finances in order so that you are not desperate to be anywhere. So you don't have to take BS from anybody. And so when you're in that late stage, that last interview where they're deciding if you're a good fit with the team, they want you. And so now you can actually negotiate for a higher salary. You can actually ask for more money. And I don't think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people are very desperate to get a job. And that's a shame. It's like you're in a much better position than you think most people are. And so it would be good. I would prefer if people were more selective about where they're working and if they actually took advantage of the place that they're at. And so these are the things you should do. And so when you're considering what questions to ask or vetting people for the job you're about to accept and you're interviewing them, you have to think about if you're a good fit for the team. You have to think about if you see yourself there for the next, because most people don't spend, unless you're in like software or something, you're going to spend a year, maybe 2, maybe 5 even, just being at that job. And then also consider that, imagine being in that role and being miserable for those 5 years. It's not something I recommend anyone do. I left the corporate world because it was a miserable experience. And it's not any particular person I was working with. It was just literally like the 9 to 5 working for somebody just was not for me. But also consider, like, before you even accept a job, you might be there for years. And if that's the case, you should really vet the team that you're going to be with. You don't want to be there for years miserable, trying to pull your hair out just because you accepted a job for the money, which is a very stupid reason to accept a job. You can always make money is should be the least important thing when you're making a decision like where you should work, because you're going to spend 8 hours a day minimum, 5 days a week minimum working there. And if we're going to talk about mental health, consider that. Like, you're going to be spending that much time there. You should be very selective about who and where you decide to work. And so it blows my mind. Like, and be in a position where you can walk away. So if you do end up accepting a job and it turns out, hey, you misjudged their character, or you misjudged the boss, or you realize they hid some things about the role, you can leave. Okay, let's do this. Hi. Actually, I don't have audio, so I'm going to decline. I'm using the mic. All right? Like, damn. Maybe next time. All right, how do I... God damn it. All right, let's see. Hi.
You gotta play. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. What's up?
Okay, you gotta play. Let's play.
Play what?
You heard it.
Okay.
You heard her. You better press accept.
I'm not accepting.
No, don't.
I'm in the middle of a stream right now. What the hell?
All you have to do is sit there.
What?
The stream's the one.
No, I can't wait.
Can you get off?
I have thousands of people watching right now. I should not have
Okay,
clicked.
let's watch. Hey, everybody.
All right. How do I...
Alright.
I should definitely learn this.
Okay, go to host and you click the exit at the top.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Goodbye.
You're welcome.
Yo. I probably should have kept them on there because I know. Yeah. I probably should have kept them on there because I know how you guys like girls a lot. But this is more important. Jobs. Jobs are more important. Yes, money's more important than girls. God damn it. What the... I can't believe I have to even... All right, for those of you watching on YouTube, what ended up happening was I accepted this invite or whatever from... I guess there's like a match or game or something. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But money's more important than girls, okay? You get the money, the girls will come. God damn it. All right, that was unexpected. All right, where was I? Accepting a job. Okay, so yeah. Get your money right by choosing the right job for you. And people aren't as selective as they should be. You should. And so we can even look at some examples right now. I'll pull up link Indeed. Those of you who are watching, is there a job that you've been considering? I'll show you exactly how you could get that job, even if you don't have the qualifications for it. So like, if you do engineer, like maybe I feel like I could build an app that would automatically... So like here, project engineer, 3 years preferred. See, at least now some of these job posting actually have this preferred word. It's like they're desperate. So these are easy jobs to get as long as you like meet the basic qualifications. Now I know engineer is like, all right, you got to do 4 years of school or whatever. But I mean, there's plenty of jobs that you probably don't even know exist that could be a good match for you. And what you should be considering is like, what kind of job will put you in a good position in the future for whatever you're trying to do. So like for me, I realized I lack social skills, so I needed to be in a position where I can develop those things. And so I accepted a job in like business operations. If you're someone who needs copywriting experience, then you can look for jobs that would involve that because you eventually want to get into email marketing or starting your own marketing agency one day. And so these are the decisions you should be making when you're thinking about what job to take, not about the salary. Which I know a lot of jobs have very, very tempting salaries. Like I hear tech recruiting's really, really good. Really, really good, especially considering the amount of work that you do. But you also have to consider the golden handcuffs that come with it. Because if you make too much money in a job that maybe isn't fulfilling or doesn't lead to what you want to do in the future, then it will trap you. And a lot of people get into that trap and then they're stuck there because it's like, oh man, I can't walk away from the salary. It pays too much because I can't get a job doing anything else. And so now whatever dreams that you had or whatever goals or aspirations you thought about doing when you were younger or years ago, you're not going to pursue because the money is too tempting. So it's like, be very careful. It's not just about the salary. It's about what you'll be able to learn in that job and will it help you in the future. And so it's like, be very careful, be very careful. And I know I've seen people get into that trap of those golden handcuffs. And the reason why they call them golden handcuffs, because like, it's really cushy. You get used to a certain lifestyle and you're like, can I take a step back if I need to go? Because it's a hard thing. Like, let's say you want to start a business one day, which a lot of people do. But you're making six figures doing some really easy job. You somehow landed it or something. Would you walk away from $100,000 a year secured doing an easy thing to go do something that's way harder, way more challenging with very, very little opportunities for success? It's irrational. In fact, it's irrational to walk away from a really good salary to go pursue entrepreneurial paths or dreams if you make a good salary. Be very careful about the jobs that you accept, even the ones that pay really well. It's not just about money. So think longer term. And I think a really good book on this, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, is How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. The idea of a talent stack and choosing the jobs that you accept as opportunities to build a skill set that's unique to you, that will be useful for the things that you want to do. And I know it's hard to pick what you want to do. A lot of people have a hard time and they struggle with like choosing what they're meant to do. But when you find that thing, it's like you cannot imagine doing anything else. And even today, I still struggle to really narrow down exactly what that's going to be. But I know I've put myself in a position where I've developed these well-rounded set of skills in a pretty unique combination, I would say. So that one day when the right opportunity comes that fits what I'm meant to do, then I'll be able to take advantage of it. No, change the subject. Why are you making demands? Like, what the fuck? No, I literally planned this stream like 5 days ago. It was all going to be about jobs. We're talking about jobs. If you want to talk about girls, we can, I guess it could be next week or something, but I only got a few more minutes left here. But thank you for like I noticed you do like a lot of the videos. So shout out to you, bro. What's your name, by the way? Is that your name? Abiviva? Okay. Yeah. You're a real one, man. Despite all the crazy stuff I post, especially today. Honestly, I didn't think the one I posted today was that bad. I didn't think it was that bad. Honestly, I was just like, I test the water sometimes just to see like, all right, let's see how awake people really are. You know, let's see how triggered I can get people. And this one did it for sure. Not in a big way, but enough that people left comments, which are always nice. But yeah, I do appreciate you and the support. And maybe even one day, if you want to come on the pod, bro, or chick, I don't know. I have no idea. I think it's is that a llama or a donkey as your avatar? I don't know. Yeah. I like you too, bro. Yeah, but this stream was all about jobs. I wanted to bring up one of the topics we talked about by the way, we have a podcast. It's like an audio podcast. It's the Almost podcast. You can find it anywhere. And one of the topics that we talked about this week was jobs, LinkedIn. Maybe I should have chose Yared. Am I saying that right? Yared. Yeah. Maybe I should have chose one of these other things. I figured jobs would be like more relevant to people because everyone needs to get a job. But we did talk about other things that I think are kind of more interesting. But I decided, yeah, let's try offering some value first before I start triggering people again. So That was my whole mission with this. And then I accidentally accepted a challenge from some girls or whatever. So maybe I'll do that next time. Next time I'll just like, I don't know, it's like some boxing thing or whatever. I'll do the research. I'll be more prepared so that we can actually do things. And for those of you watching on YouTube, yeah, I'm on YouTube too. Basically, I'm just recording this for the replay. I want to be able to cut those videos up and start growing the YouTube channel. But in the meantime, it's just going to be TikTok for now. And people are engaged, like you. What do you want to talk about? I have like 5 to 10 minutes left. What do you want to talk about, Yared? Is there anything specifically that you you have on your mind, or one of my posts? And because that's the thing, like with all these 1-minute posts I've been doing on TikTok, there's not enough room for nuance. So, and I edit them to be triggering too. So I understand like people feeling the type of way that they do. But on the other hand, it's like, why are you getting triggered by some dude on the internet, you know? It's whatever. It doesn't make much sense to me. But some of the... Oh, okay. Yeah, some of the other things we talked about this week on the pod was social media. We talked about PhDs and how people just drop their PhD title even when it's not even relevant. So like someone who has a PhD in like, I don't know, art or whatever will talk about like medicine and COVID or whatever. It's stupid. We also talk about fake science too. So like the guest we had on this week, Jordan, good friend of mine, she's doing a PhD program, and we were just asking her like, what's it like? What's the PhD program like, and how people are? And she's like, a lot of the stuff that people publish as PhD or researchers it's mostly bullshit. And I know this from my experience too, working in the pharmaceutical industry. Yeah, you guys have no clue how fraudulent a lot of science really is. It's crazy. If you knew, you might start. No, I don't want to worry you guys. But it is crazy how much fraudulent science there is out there. There was this whole recent thing with like depression drugs and stuff. But guys, like it, you guys have way too much faith in the system, man. Way too much. And I know it as someone who worked in it. I'm like, bro, these guys are just like the basic problem with a lot of science these days is a lot of the published research is not repeatable. So really, it's just someone making some random claim that no one else can repeat. And if it can't be repeated, then it's not actually a legitimate explanation of the real world. And if that's the case, then why did it get published in the first place? You know? And then when you understand the incentives of PhDs and people who work in academia, you understand that, like, all right, the only way they can advance in their careers is if they publish. And sometimes they will fudge numbers. Sometimes they will make up stuff. Not intentionally, subconsciously they're doing it. And so you have to be very careful about like, so when people say peer study, peer review just means someone looked at your arithmetic and found there are no errors, you know? Like they didn't actually repeat the experiment or whatever research was done in the paper itself. So people have no clue. And it's kind of scary too, because you're like, all these scientists are bullshitters. All of them. And they're human too. So it's like, oh, it's wild. It's crazy. And then the one of the last things we talked about on the podcast was street shitting. So if you're not from California, you don't know what this is, but people actually shit in the street, or not in the street, on the sidewalk, which is worse, I would say. Shitting on the street. Hey, shit on the sidewalk, man. This is a common thing in California. I witnessed this once. I thought it was dog shit. I really did. I thought it was dog shit, and then I walked past it, and people in the area corrected me, and they're like, "No, that's human shit. That's human shit on the sidewalk," and no one was fazed by it. I was like, "What is wrong with everybody here?" Like, people can really get used to anything, really, dude. If it happens enough, people can get used to anything, and it's like. And we had this whole like argument about, hey, you know, if you really had to relieve yourself, would you not do it in the sidewalk? I was like, no. Who does? Yes, I know. Actually, on the side, I literally saw it, a pile of shit. It was big. It was a big one. I thought it was a dog, like maybe it could have been a big dog. But the people around me corrected me. They're like, no, Ayman. This is Human shit. Human shit. This is a common thing in California. This is common in the Bay Area. It's common where I live too. Or not common, but the fact that I even saw it, it's kind of crazy. And everyone here just accepts it. Really? They don't even have it in Detroit? I thought Detroit was a shithole. Or, yeah. What? It's not even... See, Californians are so weird, bro. Californians are so weird, bro. Look, they have nice weather. They have nice... The beaches are cold. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, people think California is great. Oh, sunny, whatever. But the ocean's cold. But, yo... California ain't the business, bro. People are so used to just misery here that I gotta get out, bro. I gotta get out. So that's the plan. And, yeah. Cool, man. Yared. I'm gonna write that down. I'm really bad with names, so I'm gonna remember you, bro. Yared, and I hope I'm saying that right. You're a real one. And this is the stream. I'm going to do this every Sunday. I'm thinking even maybe I'll do it more. Or if there's things that people actually want to... Because I got... Like, you've seen the page, man. Like, I can talk about anything. I can talk about anything. So if there's something in particular that you're interested in, my background... yeah. Huh. I'll add it to the list, man. I've been putting together a list. And so right now I have... Alaska is one of them. I've heard multiple people say good things about it. Maybe not this time of year because it's kind of cold and the days would be really, really short because of how high they are in the northern atmosphere. I've considered Colombia, so maybe spending a few months there. That might be cool too. Detroit, interesting. Didn't even think about it, but there's also Chicago in that area, so that's a kind of cool place too. But I'll add it. Maybe Texas. My brother's there right now. And yeah, I'll add it to the list, man. I'll add it to the list. So I'm going to continue doing these live streams in the future. Just for the practice, honestly. Like, yeah, dude. Alaska's not... I swear to God. Yo, I was having a conversation with these people. So it was one person who was telling me, yo, I miss Alaska so much. They moved to California for business reasons, but they were just like missing home, Alaska. Apparently, one, there are black people there. There are, apparently. Two, nature's great. And people are super friendly there, apparently. So, like, Southern hospitality is basically a thing there, too. And they just had good things to say. And then if you like hunting or fishing or anything like that, the water is, like, super clear there and whatever. Not that I'm a nature guy, but... They were saying good things. That was one person. And then I ran to another person who was saying the same thing too. They just loved Alaska. So I'm like, yeah, I'll put it on the list, see what it's about. And you get paid for being there too if you become a resident. It's a modest amount, like $1,200 or something, but still. The fact that and no taxes, bruh. I mean, it's an easy thing to dismiss because it sounds crazy, but Alaska apparently is the shit. Apparently it's the shit. I don't know. I'll add it to the list. Maybe I'll just spend a few months there and then like report back. Yo, it was dark for 20 hours a day, which is kind of cool. I actually prefer the night, like Batman. So yeah, maybe I'll move to Alaska for a bit and check that out. Find all the black people that are there and report back. See if this is a place maybe other people want to go. Maybe even do like a travel series of like, hey, check out this new place. I have plenty of black friends. I have plenty. Okay. Or maybe here's the thing, like considering my life and the things I went through and the path I took, like there weren't a lot of black people around. Okay. Like if you like math and engineering, if you like fixing shit, if you like learning and excelling academically or otherwise, ain't a lot of black people around. Okay. Like, and then as the higher up you go in academia, the fewer and fewer there are, which is crazy to me. And I like reading too. So that's one of the things, like, I'm not saying it's not a black thing to do, but I mean, I can't tell you what's playing on BET right now. Okay. I can't tell you who the the poppin' artist is. I can tell you what Ye is saying because that shit goes everywhere, but I can't tell you anything aside from that. Like, I know my lane, I like my lane, and I don't care what other people think. And I think this is a comment. This is what people should have. This is how people should think of themselves, right? It doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. You do you. You do you, and you make it work. Weirdly enough, I seem to attract black women really, really well. Okay, maybe because I'm just like starkly different from other guys, but I mean, I have the stature, I have the beard, I have the somewhat deep voice, but like as soon as I open my mouth, I'm different, and then I'm like, oh, huh, okay, and that's it. So you just find your lane. It doesn't have to be. I need more black friends. I don't know. I got plenty, enough at least, and it's like I like the things I like. Yeah, I'm the black guy who plays hockey, or at least played hockey. Yeah, it's a pretty fun sport. If black people, I feel like black people would kill it if they started playing hockey, bro, because it's just a bunch of footwork. You get to smash people into boards. Yeah, you need stick handling, but I mean they got hands. What do you mean he wasn't on his neck? Oh, you're talking about the George Floyd thing? Okay, yeah. From the angle that went viral, like I was with all of you guys too when I first saw the first. And that's the thing, like as someone who edits video, I now understand how easy it is to like make you guys see what you want to see. Because from that angle, it definitely looks really bad. That's the angle with the cop on him. It looks like he's on his neck, and you only see one cop. But actually, from another angle, you get to see where the knee is actually placed, and you actually see there's other officers there who are holding him down. And then on top of that, there's more video that shows they actually got him in the back of the cruiser, and he was asking to be let out because he couldn't breathe. So yeah, and then when you watch the testimony, the expert witnesses and stuff, and like they check blood levels and things in his blood and everything, you're like, all right, maybe he was overdosing, and that's what was happening. And then if you look at the procedures for someone who's overdosing, they basically tell them to put them on their side and their back, on their side, so they don't like choke on their own saliva and stuff. But that's essentially what happened. And I know it's a lot to look into because you're not going to see this stuff being published on the news because it's a lot. It's nuanced that's hard to explain in the 30 seconds that the news segment has to share information with you. And so it's like you have to go out and find the information yourself. But I've always been curious about legalities and stuff, and I actually got a chance to serve as a juror for a quadruple homicide once. I was the foreman of a quadruple homicide, which I was actually prepared to let the guy walk. I was prepared. It was just me and one other guy who was like fighting for this guy. And then the rest of the jurors were like, nah, he's guilty. I was like, no. The prosecutor has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. It doesn't matter if he even has a history of this kind of violent crime. The prosecution has to determine it. So basically, I follow this legal stuff too. And there's plenty of stuff on YouTube. You can actually see the additional evidence that wasn't available when that video went viral. And so there's a lot more to the story, but I mean, people end up feeling one type of way or another based on that information. And it's always weird how they choose these cases. The cases where you can see two sides, where a narrative can be built on both sides of the political aisle. Because if you actually look at the stats, it's about 1,000 people who are shot and killed by police every year. 1,000 people. A quarter of whom are black. But the only ones we ever know about are the ones where they're like the motivations and the story is ambiguous and where two sides or two narratives can be built around it. And it's like, all right, is this being manufactured? Is this thing being publicized because two sides can make their own narratives on this? And then when you start looking deeper into it, it's never as clean as either side say it is. And so the cop could have very well been corrupt, but considering the circumstances and the additional evidence that came out, it's not as clean as you guys think it is. And so if you're curious, you can look it up, YouTube it. There's plenty of stuff. There's a really good YouTube channel by Robert Guevara, I think he changed the channel name to. He literally did a summary, and I would watch these every day, the summary of each day of the trial. and you talk about all the evidence that was presented, all the expert testimony that was given for that case. Yeah, dude. Yeah. And I don't blame you either. Like a lot of people, it's a hard thing to do. People got jobs, people got lives, and it's a hard thing to do to like go out of your way to find these things unless you're curious. And so it's like our media really does us a disservice, man. And so like that's why I like posting this stuff and like, all right, let's see how much control our media still has. And it's still pretty strong grip on the American populace, at least. It would be curious to see people. I'd like to get people's opinions overseas to see what they see, because that would be curious. And that's why it would be really cool if I like travel overseas to like Colombia or maybe even Europe to see what they're thinking. Like, what are they hearing about the stuff that are going on in America? And it's weird because America is like the popular kid in school that everyone knows everything about. Like, like we don't know what the hell's going on in like Europe or whatever and stuff, but they know what's going on here. So it'd be curious what to see. You're right. The censorship these days is alarming, dude. Like, it's getting worse. Oh, you're in the UK? Wow, dude. Oh my God. You guys don't even have freedom of speech like we have it here. Even despite it being a central part of our rights, still people, it's crazy when people talk about like censorship and all that stuff. It's like, no. Hey, Jeanette, what's up? Yeah, so we're talking about this latest video that I posted about On His Neck and all the drama with Kanye and stuff. And that's the thing. I understand where he's coming from, because I'm literally 2 years ahead of the guy. I'm 2 years ahead of the guy, and I know the transition he's going through. And so I can sympathize with him. He's like learning these things later than I did. And so I'm like, man. But he has such a huge platform that it's like people, and I think the way he speaks is like an artist. So it's like you have to interpret it. And so people can interpret it however they want. And so then they take things that, and then maybe he doesn't even know how to form some of these ideas because he just learned it. And so it's like, man, I feel for the guy. But I mean, he's trying to learn, which is cool. And it's a hard thing to do, especially when it's like counter to everything and everybody around you. Man, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. And I remember being in that situation. I still am, honestly. Most of the people around me think I'm wrong about everything until like time passes and it proves I'm right. Like, and then they won't even admit that, people won't even admit that they're wrong, which is just something you got to accept. You're going to be the one person in your life who understands the world and what's going on deeper and better than everybody else. And when what you told them was proven right, they will not admit that they were wrong. They'll continue for the next thing, thinking that you're wrong. So it's just like, you can be angry about it, or you can learn to accept it. And I've learned to accept it. And that's why I take this like humor approach to it all. It's like, it's funny. It's just funny. It is what it is. So, yeah, definitely look into it yourselves. Jeanette, do you have any thoughts on maybe the video I posted or anything? If you're familiar with the content that I've posted, I get pretty crazy with this stuff. And people think it's bad. Or people are like, oh, I'm like trying to get canceled, which has been a running joke on the podcast. I've really been trying to get canceled, but no one's doing it. I mean, I guess I'm not big enough yet. The Table Moments isn't big enough, but once it is, I'm really looking forward to getting canceled. Because my theory behind being canceled is, you cancel me once, shame on you. Cancel me twice, you can't get canceled again. All right, so that's my that's my philosophy behind it. So I might as well get it out of the way on my terms. Cancel me now, please. Plus, I don't think it's as bad for black people either. So let's do it. Let's do it. I'm here for the cancellation, please. And I did get a recommendation on a way to do it, but I feel like if I do get canceled, it has to be for saying something that I genuinely believe, not just for the sake of saying outlandish shit. Oh shit, dude. Yeah, go to sleep, bro. Thank you. You saw the video. Please, I didn't follow the account if the kind of stuff I put on there is something you resonate with. Not, that's fine too. I appreciate you being here and even just contributing. Good night, man. And I think I'm gonna end it too. This is gone 15 minutes past than I expected, but I mean, I came here to talk about jobs, but I actually prefer this kind of conversation. So maybe I'll just do this, like pick a certain video that's controversial and then have people share their thoughts. Because it'd be interesting, because I think it'd be cool if we can like slowly help people grow and stuff. So thank you, Jeanette, for showing up. Doesn't matter. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye. Bye. Let's end now. And let's end the stream too. Those of you on YouTube, I know I was focusing on the TikTok guys. Sorry, but I was getting engagement there. Honestly, I should probably look to see if anyone was. Yeah, no current. One view. All right, so one view. I'll figure this whole thing out. It'd be cool if I could like get them all streamed to the one camera. That way I can actually focus on you guys and make it feel like personable. But at least for now, this is what I'm doing, and that'll be it.